Hey everybody, this is Noah. Back for entry number 21 into the Thought Bubble series. Sorry if it's a little bit loud. Um, I'm recording this on the same day, just a little bit later, and right now is kind of like when everybody's going home. So if you hear like trucks and stuff like that, like I'm sorry. I also, in case you didn't watch the other episode, I got the NBA draft up right now. Today I'm filming this all on Tuesday, so today's the NBA draft, the first round. So and there's a player in there that I really want to see get drafted. He's from my college, from Santa Clara. So hopefully we're gonna see that. His name's Alan Graves. Shout out him. But if you're wondering why, like sometimes I'm looking like to my right a little bit, that's because I'm looking at the draft. I'm watching it a little bit here and there, but down to the meat and potatoes of today, and probably why you clicked on this video or you didn't. I don't know. I don't know why you clicked on it, but thank you anyway. Today I kind of wanted to talk about something that kind of piqued my interests. It all started kind of with my mom because she has like a little rose garden. I live in an apartment and we have like a small balcony, and our balcony is kind of used for like plants and stuff like that. And she has a little like garden with like a bunch of roses on it, and it kind of reminded me of like the idea that when you have like a rose bush or whatever, like you need to almost like cut it all the way down, even though it's like super super pretty. Like the best way to have it continue to grow and live long time is to like trim the basically like trim it. And I think that's how it works. I'm not like a big like plants person, but I think that's how it works. But it kind of got me thinking about the idea of like starting over and how like sometimes it's better to just start over and start from scratch rather than kind of continuing on in like the same path that you're on. So for me, one of the first cases that came to mind was one of my friends from college. He was originally in engineering. He was like the oldest in his family in terms of like the kids, right? And like he's an engineer. He was doing engineering, and throughout kind of like our freshman sophomore year, he didn't really like it. From what I know, he basically was kind of just in it because like he felt like he needed to impress his parents and like all of this stuff, but his true passion was in cooking. And so he was talking with me a little bit about it, and then he talked with some of our other friends more extensively about it. And basically, he ended up dropping out and starting over, and now he's like a sous chef at a pretty nice restaurant. And so what I gathered from his story was like, um one, it takes a lot of, it's really hard to make the decision to start over for sure, because it's like sometimes it's like from familial pressure. I feel like a lot of times, like, I don't know if it's just in my family, but it might be the case for a lot of other families, that like when you do something or invest time and money into something, or like your parents invest money and time into something, like they really want you to like stay on that path and like make it worthwhile, even if it's like it gets to a point where it's just hurting you. Like, for example, like something like college, right? Like one of the talking points we had was like, you pay for tuition for like 2 years and then suddenly we want to drop out. It's like not really worth the investment or the time or the money or whatever, right? Like that's like part of it. I think also part of it is also like the time, like unfortunately time is not infinite. You're not going to live on this life or on this earth for like an infinite amount of time. You only have a certain amount of time. So it like almost feels like you wasted a little bit of your time, in a sense of like all the time that you spend is now lost because you're going to restart again. But I think it's almost offset by the value that you gain by restarting and doing something that you're actually really passionate about, which is kind of what I ended up telling him was like, basically to just chase things that you're passionate about. And even if it means to restart, yes, it's hard. It's for sure like very much like difficult. It's not a very easy decision, and it like forces you to like walk away from a lot of what you know is like normal or comfortable. But sometimes in the long run it like really helps, because like you end up chasing something that you're more passionate about, like in his case cooking, right? Or like, let's say you leave your job for another opportunity, and suddenly like because of like the way things work now, you're in like a higher paid position, or you have more benefits, or like you get a lot more work to do, or you get a lot of cool projects, like stuff like that, right? Like there's so much unknown on the other side that like if you really want to chase it, to not be afraid to like start over. And like it doesn't necessarily mean, I think there's like a big difference too when I'm talking about this of like, it doesn't necessarily mean like just drop everything and do whatever you want and like you can just reset at any time and like that should be praised, because I think there is value in sometimes sticking through the hardships. I think like some of the hardest projects that I've worked on, or like some of the hardest things in life that have happened to me, like being able to come out on the other side stronger has like provided a lot more value than if I like didn't actually test myself or didn't push myself to try and be better. And so it is something that I'm still working on of like, I think it's a really big thing to be able to recognize like, hey, this is something that I feel like I can work through, and like even though it's not really comfortable for me, I'm gonna try it. And like just following that. But then there's also that line on the other side where it's like, basically, if it gets to a point, then just to like restart and do something else, and like being able to like concede, I think is a big thing, especially in like, I've been trying to learn chess, and this is like a lesson that I've learned like kind of the hard way by losing a lot. But like in chess or in like Go, which was a like tabletop game that I played in high school a little bit with some of my friends because we had a class about it. Like it takes a lot of intelligence and willpower to be able to know when to concede and like when to basically say like, this is beyond saving and it's not gonna it's gonna get worse for me if I just continue to kind of put my energy and put my effort into like this one thing and like try to force things to happen. And like by doing that, like in chess, let's say, like I try so hard to save a piece, and by doing it, I lose a lot more than I would have if I just rather moved on and like done something else more productive, which is like maybe push space in the other side of the board or something like this, right? Like I think a lot of times we can become so laser focused, or at least for me, that I've noticed that like I feel like I can become so laser focused sometimes on like trying to force things to work and trying to make things always work all the time and like end up in my favor. But then a lot of times what ends up happening is like sometimes when I do that, it does work out, because like I think those are situations where being able to have mental fortitude and being able to push through things and not giving up at like the first hurdle is super valuable and important. But there's definitely been some times where like I keep putting my energy and effort into things and it just ends up hurting me a lot more than it helps me. And so I've been trying to get a little bit better at like discerning those two things in my life. But for sure, like being able to concede, I feel like, or like start over or like give up where you are and then move on is like such a it's so hard to discern, at least for me. But I think there's so much value in being able to say like, hey, this is not going to work out for me, and like being able to accept the fact that like you're not going to be able to kind of force things to happen, and that sometimes it's just not meant to be, and then moving on from that. And it could mean a lot of different things. It could just be like, for me in engineering, actually, like it could just be something small of like, oh, there's no aerospace engineering program at my school, which is what I wanted to originally study in, but then I ended up studying in electrical, something like that. Like being able to discern like, hey, there's like some concessions that need to be made is always super super important. But I think it's just like it's a whole discernment problem for sure. But I think like it's very powerful. I don't know what the right word is, but like to be able to start over, and like despite all of the time and effort that you put into something, that like, you know um it almost relates back to like self-control in a little bit of a way of like having the control over yourself and your emotions to know truly like, this is something that is just going to hurt me in the long term, and it's going to continue to kind of drain my mental or like kill my emotions and like hurt my basically just like it's going to cause more hurt than harm. And so at that point, just to do like what you would do to like a rose plant and like just cut the branches off and have it grow again. And sometimes, you can cut it off and then like it doesn't end up working well. It's not to say that I think I think it's like a general running theme too in these episodes that like whenever I say like things are good or things are bad, it's not necessarily like law. Like I think in starting over in 100% of cases is not gonna end up leading to like a better result always. Like for me, let's say like in college, right? When I was in at Santa Clara doing electrical engineering, that like I just decided that like I didn't want to do it anymore and I dropped out. I don't really have like a plan for the future. I don't really have a plan to like what I'm gonna do after, and I just decided that, oh, this is too hard. I'm gonna drop out. Then like I'm gonna end up probably worse in the long term because like without a plan or direction or like values or something to focus on, like you don't really have like a path forward in life. And so I think that that's also like a super big part of it of like if you are gonna start over, and let's just say like whether it's like something from class or like starting a new like job or start over at a new like whatever it is that you're starting over, to at least have a plan forward of like if you're gonna drop from college and go to do culinary, like have a plan at least of like what you're gonna do. Are you gonna apply to like bakeries? Are you gonna apply to restaurants? Are you looking for high end, low end? Are you looking for something like local? Are you looking for something on the mainland? Like having that plan. And that was what was super super cool about what my friend did, which was like he was able to, even though he's like planning to start, he wanted to start over and that was like a guarantee, he had a plan in place. And so I think that's the other piece of the puzzle that I was missing before in my brain, was like I think it's super super, it takes a lot of strength and it takes a lot of mental willpower to be able to say, hey, this is not going to work for me, and that being able to know when to concede and live to fight another day is a super valuable skill to have, and something that I want to work on and something that I want to get better at. But also at the same time, there is also a lot of value in being able to face challenges and try and stick things through and trying to push forward and like get through tough times, because like a lot of times when you go through tough experiences, what you learn on the other side, you become a lot stronger and you get a lot more you learn a lot through hardship. But on the same token, it's kind of like how I mentioned, like you got to know basically like when it gets to a point where, this side is like, this is all like the hardship that you go through and like pushing through and getting the value. And then there's a fine line between that and just pushing through things to for the sake of it, and then just like not really kind of just like basically just giving up randomly, like you don't want to give up randomly, but also at the same time like you got to know when to kind of start over. And then also, if you are going to start over and you decide to, at least to like have a path forward, it shouldn't just be, oh, I'm giving up and I'm going to drop everything. It should be like, yes, I want to start over and this other thing is intriguing me. And so what I'm going to do to chase the thing that's intriguing me is X, Y, and Z. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to work on this every day. I'm going to be consistent with this. I'm going to reach out to people who have been in like whatever industry that I want to, whatever it might be, at least having like a plan forward after you start over. Cause that way you don't get stuck in kind of that. I feel like it's so easy to fall into that trap too of when you start over of like, it's always hardest to make like the first step in whatever you do, right? Like whether it's at the gym, whether it's in a sport, in work, whatever, like it's always hardest to make that first step. But if you have a plan for it, I feel like it makes it easier because you have like a lot of momentum already riding behind you from starting over in like that like honeymoon period kind of or whatever of like just going forward. And like once you start over and you have a plan forward, you kind of just like go and do it rather than like you delay so long and trying to figure out what you want to do, and you waste a lot of time figuring out like hypotheticals and like what you want to happen rather than just making it happen. So yeah, I think in general though, like I want to work on knowing when to concede, especially I think for me particular, like in relationships. But I think it's super important to know when it's worthwhile to put in the time, put in the investment, and work through it. And then knowing when it's too much and that it's just better to start over or cut ties or do whatever you need to do. And, but at least if you're going to do that and you're going to restart, like have some sort of plan for it, like for me, at least in a relationships, like if I'm going to break off a relationship with somebody, like how do I want to, act around them in the future? Do I want to like continue to respond? Like basically have like a plan, at least in relationships. But that's something I'm still thinking about and working on. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. You think starting over is good? Think it's bad? I feel like I'm like on the fence, but Generally, I think it's a good thing though if you have a plan and really you get to that point where it's just, you got to concede. But if you want to see any of my other videos, I usually throw them up here. Here should be a playlist with all the other videos in it, and here's like the little channel button if I remember to put it in there. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, normal stuff, and hopefully I'll see you for another episode of this video journal or thought bubble series. See ya. I don't know. I don't know why this is my outro now, but yeah.